What is up, YouTube? Welcome back to Work Knife Balance. We're going to be diving into a CMB knife today. But before we do that, I want to go ahead and say thank you to anybody who's already liked and subscribed to our channel. If you haven't, feel free to hit that like button below. You can also head over to Instagram and follow us at Work Knife Balance 939. If you send us a knife for review or something like that, we'll go ahead and send you back a sticker and some swag just to say thank you for supporting the channel by allowing us to make more content. So, yeah. Without any more time wasted, let's go ahead and dive in. CMB knife, kind of standard, comes with a cleaning cloth, comes with a nice zipper case. Their zipper cases have like this fleecy material on the inside, so I kind of like that versus just the cloth material that every other company has as well. And then CMB does this on all their knives that I've got from them. Attention, you are buying a knife. Excuse me. Keep out of the way from children. So, as a dad with kids, I thought that was kind of cool. I think it's probably because they just want to be careful that they don't get sued from anything, but yeah. This is the CMB TNB. So CMB TNB is the model of this one right here. We'll go ahead and do a tip to tail measurement on this one, and then we'll do some side-by-side comparisons before we dive too far into it. Just under 7 inches from tip to tail, we'll say 6.9, and then the blade is just under 3, we'll say 2.8 with a 2.75 cutting edge. So it does have a nice little drop point, big belly on it right there. It does have a button lock to it, so we'll compare it with some other button locks. We've got the Civivi Cubit right here up top. We'll go ahead and do the Civivi Elementum down below. I think that Cubit actually gives a really good size comparison. We'll leave that one out for a second. See something that's not a button lock. We've got the Miguron Mayoral, which is a little bit bigger, similar blade shape, just a little bit larger, and then the handle's larger as well. Let's see if we can get one or two more. We've got the Kaiser Veritas. That should be no surprise. That one's almost always out on the table because I carry it frequently. And then we will see one more. This is a weird one, I guess, but it's out here right now. I'll show you a little bit longer. Shirogorov Neon right there. So kind of shows you a couple different size comparisons, couple different model comparisons, as you can see there. I think that Civivi Cubit is going to be the closest side-by-side comparison to this TNB right here. So I don't know what TNB stands for. I looked a little bit, but I wasn't able to really find it. This is a Hydra design knife, so you've got the kind of billboarding on this side, Hydra billboarding right there. It's 14C28N, you can kind of see right there. And then you've got CMB's logo on the other side. So it's 14C28, G10 scales on it. They have this kind of ocular looking milling to the G10 in here, kind of etched in the G10 here. That's something I've seen on a couple other knives. Oh, and it even tells you right there on the clip, Hydra design. So you can see that right there. It is ambidextrous on the clip, so you can flip it over from one side to the other, and you do have a nice large lanyard hole right there on the back side if that's something you're interested in. Couple things I noticed with this knife, you saw one right there. You do kind of have to really give it a go to fully go in there. You can, if I try and fail, I can fail it pretty easily, even with a flick. But if you're a button push type person and not a light switch on your flipper, you're gonna fail this. It doesn't have the oomph that I would expect from a knife like this. It's, as you can see on those button pushes there we went through, and that wasn't really trying to push, that wasn't really trying to fail, that was just pushing out normal. If I try and fail it, I can fail it either way. So yeah, that was disappointing to say the least on this. Aside from that in itself, the knife has a really good ergo. The knife has a really good ergo to it. It feels nice. It's good. You get really good action, really good purchase room on it for a smaller knife. It feels good. Now, if you have large hands, not like wear a size large glove, but you have large, you wear extra large XXL, this knife's going to be small for you. So I wear size large gloves. It feels really good in hand. You get both front and reverse grip. Feels great in there, but it's definitely chunky. It's going to be a little bit, there's no chamfering on the edges. They are kind of rounded and crowned, so there's no sharp points or anything like that. But it feels chunky in your hand, but there's no weight because it's G10. So it's just kind of like you got this chunky block in here with a blade on the end. Feels good, but it just feels different, I will say that. Where the clip sits, because the clip does sit down a little bit, it's not like a deep carry that goes up above. Like, you're gonna have a chunk of the knife sitting out of your pocket. Because it sits down in there, when you have it in your hand, it's sitting right here. So I can feel that in my hand, and it's not necessarily the best design in my opinion. It doesn't feel good right there. I have to kind of be aware of it and then put it on kind of a little bit more meat down here when I hold, and then wrap my hands around it, and that feels better. But that was something I noticed as well. There is 5 lines of jimping on the back right here. I believe I counted them already. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there are 5 lines of jimping on the back right here. I would have loved to see a little bit more. Where that jimping is, I don't know what the purpose of just those 5 lines of jimping other more than aesthetics. And if that's the case, that's cool. That's a choice they made. I would have loved to see a little bit more with a smaller knife. Put some further out here so you actually have a use for it to get you grip, and to be able to have a little bit more dexterity as you're using this knife with gloves, if you were to do that or something like that. The blade though, if we look at the blade beyond the jimping on the top of the spine, you've got a really nice swedge and a really big belly here. It's a slicey blade, and it came sharp. So I don't know if this was factory sharp or if this was sharpened by someone who had it before, but it came sharp. So yeah, it's a budget knife. I believe these are around 50 bucks, and I will put a link to them below. They're between 50 and 60 depending upon where you find them and what time Amazon is running deals. That's typically where I see a lot of CMB knives, so there will be an Amazon link below, and that does support our channel if you want to pick one up. Don't know if you will after my review, but yeah, I would say that for a $60 knife, it's not bad. But there are other $60 knives out there that I think you get a little bit more for your money, and you get a little bit better in the finish and kind of the design that makes them easier. So I'm doing this over and over because that is super disappointing that it fails like that. So I keep doing this over and over because to show that, like, if you really come down on it, you can get it out there easily. You just have to be cognizant of put the extra effort into that flip to get it out. If you just kind of lightly push it through, it's not gonna come there. So and if you just do a button push, it definitely doesn't go up at all. So you gotta be aware of that as you're coming through with this. The button itself sits a little higher than I would want it to. You can kind of see it here. The button sits a little bit higher than I would want it to, and then obviously when you get the knife out, it sits even higher. So that isn't like, it's not in a crazy bad location or anything. It's not going to be in the way of you as the knife's open to lock it down or anything like that, but it's not flush, and I would call that out. But for a $60 knife, I don't know if you can really say that's a bad thing, or that's kind of expected to have little pieces like that for a $50, $60 knife. But yeah, you have a nice backspacer coming on the top here. I believe the backspacer is just G10 as well. And then all the hardware screws are kind of recessed in, so you can't see any of the hardware screws really sitting up on there or anything, and there are few of them. You've got 2 on the back side right here, and then 2 on this side right here going into the G10 as well. So with that in mind, it is aesthetically pleasing, and it is a nice knife. There are a couple things about the fit and finish I think could be a little better, and just the design of it, where that flipper is in line with the pivot. It's actually a little below the center line of the pivot, and then the angle that you have to choose to take it is a flat angle, so it's flat down, versus something that would be more angled in to give you that push to come out. And we had another knife on the live, I think the other night that we were looking at, that did that, or here's one right here. So pivot is right next to the flipper, but because the angle that you're pushing, it just whips itself right out. Two completely different categories of knives, two completely different things, but just kind of trying to show why I think that's happening is because this is more of a flat edge for it to land on and not something that gives you an angle. So you have to really kind of push into that to have it come out. So yeah, nothing safety wise, I don't see it like coming out soft or anything, so it's not like there's nothing holding it in there. It's definitely held in. It just doesn't have the oomph to fully go through unless you give it a little bit more on the flip. So yeah, that's all I got for this CMB TNB. I will say, follow the link below. There are two different variations. I like the other variation more, and even with everything that I've said about this, I probably still would get it as a budget knife for $60. You got gray G10 with kind of a satin finish, kind of a gray satin finish, and then all the hardware is stainless steel as well. So you're just going to get that 14C28 stainless steel, and then the G10. This would be a solid backpack knife to throw in a camping set if you just needed something that you're not going to worry about, and it's not going to be your everyday tool, but it's something that could be reliable easily to sit in a backpack for months when you're not using it, so, and not having to worry about it if it gets lost. So yeah, those are my impressions, my thoughts of this CMB knife. Until next time, TTFN.